The first half of the Major League Baseball season is in the books. We've made it through all-star games, which means it's a perfect time for mid-season awards. The odds, they have changed since the start of the year. And teams are off until Friday, July 19th. That's tomorrow when the second half of the season begins. So let's get our award winners at the half underway. Matt Snyder and Will Middlebrooks joining us now for some mid-season awards, and we're going to start with the NL Rookie of the Year and a player who has more hype around him since maybe Strasburg, as we were discussing earlier. Paul Skeens. So Matt Skeens, the heavy favorite. Is this just an easy runaway?
Right now, probably. Yeah, I mean, I know it's only been 11 starts, but he's 6-0 with a 1.90 ERA. And there are other players like Jackson Merrill, Shota Imanaga, Joey Ortiz, Michael Busch, who should be in the conversation, and they will get votes. But right now, it's all about Paul Skeens, and it's hard to see anybody else getting in there, especially if he continues on this path and he continues to rack up workload. The only thing that could prevent him from winning this award would be, I don't even want to talk about it, but an injury, or if the Pirates shut him down when he got to like 100 innings, maybe people would say he didn't have enough value, but it feels like all roads are headed this way.
Yeah, it's a runaway. Like, you look at the odds, it's not even close. It's kind of a joke, actually. So like Matt said, barring some unforeseen injury or implosion by Skeens, which none of us really see happening, it's going to him. So I just want to pivot to a guy who's getting lost in the shadow of Paul Skeens and Livy Dunn while we're at it. Might as well. Jackson Merrill. I mean, this kid is the absolute real deal. And in just about any other season, he probably walks away with the Rookie of the Year. Unfortunately, Paul Skeens is there. But Merrill, he impacts the game in every way. He's a good defender. He's a good base runner. And then what he's doing at the plate is just a 21-year-old is really impressive. I got a front row seat to see it when San Diego came to Boston. He faced Tanner Houck, who at the time had not given up. This was at the end of June, had not given up a home run to a left-handed batter, and Merrill clipped him deep to left center. It was really impressive the way he handled his at-bats there at Fenway against some good pitching, and he's had my attention ever since then.
Who knew we'd get a Livy Dunn shout out from my husband there? Love it. All right, we're going to go over to the American League now. Not as clear as it comes to the Rookie of the Year. So, Will, we'll start with you. Who do you like for AL Rookie of the Year?
Yeah, this one is tough. It's going to come down to the end of the year, it seems. But right now, for me, I know Wyatt Langford's getting a lot of love in the odds, but I like Luis Hill of New York. I mean, he's got electric stuff. And look, this is an era where most pitchers throw hard. Everybody's chasing triple digits. They all have sharp breaking balls, sliders, sweepers, whichever breaking ball you want to pick. They're all good based off just the metrics and the way they're able to learn how to throw these pitches. But Luis Hill really stands out right now. The Yankees needed somebody to step up in the absence of Garrett Cole for the first couple months of the season, and he did. And it's not just one pitch he's doing it with. It's all three. Opponents are hitting 184 against his fastball, 182 against his changeup, 131 against his slider. He's had one or two bad outings, but he's bounced back. He's a young guy, big, strong guy. He's really impressive. And I just got to put my Red Sox hat on for 1 sec. I know our producer hates me talking about the Red Sox, but I'm going to do it. So I got to give Cedar Rafaela some love. He's 4th in odds right now, but he leads all AL rookies in RBIs, runs scored, hits, extra base hits, and total bases, and not getting a lot of love. Wilyer Abreu as well, doing well.
So for my mid-season AL Rookie of the Year pick, I basically got it narrowed down to just Heel and Mason Miller. And I think Mason Miller's been much better on a rate basis, and he's probably a more fun story, more fun pitcher to watch. But it's 102 1/3 innings pitch for Heel, 39 2/3 innings pitch for Miller. Now, if Miller had no blown saves and like a .50 ERA, okay, but it's 2.27. He's blown 2 saves. That's just so much more workload for Heel, so I had to go for Heel. And as Will mentioned, with Garrett Cole being out and him getting thrown in the fire there and bringing on such a big workload, having the Yankees toward the top of the standings, it's I think to me it was kind of an easy pick, even if I think Miller is a close second. It's just so much more workload. You got to go with the guy who had to throw a lot more innings when it's pitcher versus pitcher.
All right, let's swing over to the MVP conversation now. We're going to start in the NL. Is it Shohei or bust, Will? What do you think?
It's Shohei or Shohei or Shohei. I mean, let's be. He has 2 MVPs from seasons in which he pitched and served as a DH. His ability to just, and now he's doing it. Obviously, it's just a DH, which we haven't seen. So his ability to generate the amount of bat speed he does. the amount of exit velocity, the way he hits the baseball, but still being able to adjust mid-swing to off-speed. He's just one of the best in the game at that. Yet he's still 90th percentile in walk rate. He's a unicorn of baseball players. And oh, by the way, he's got 23 stolen bases as well, and he's 6'5", 230. Which it's just a joke what he's doing. He's not too far from a triple crown watch as well. He leads in homers with 29. He's second in batting average at 316. He's third in RBIs. He's 8 back of that, but who knows? He can go on a run and do that in a couple of days. I've just run out of words to describe Ohtani. So yes, he is the MVP.
Yeah, I mean, Christian Yelich is having a great year. Bryce Harper's having a great year. If Mookie Betts and Trey Turner didn't get hurt, maybe they would be in the mix. But Ohtani's leading in slugging, OPS plus, home runs, total bases, WAR. He leads in WAR even though he doesn't play defense, and there is a defensive component to WAR. It's a 54-point lead in slugging, and he's even stolen 23 bases. So he's in order to win MVP from a DH, you have to be head and shoulders above everybody else offensively, and he is. So yeah, it's Shohei Ohtani.
So in the NL, we got Shohei. In the AL, I mean, you talk in stats, especially when it comes to MVP. What Aaron Judge is doing right now is mind-blowing. So Will, are you saying AL MVP, easy street? What do you think?
You know I hate pinstripes, but I love Aaron Judge. I love Aaron Judge, though. You can't hate him. He's just such a good guy, and he's like 306, 34 homers, 85 RBIs in 96 games. Need I say more? Probably not, but they pay me to talk more, so I'm going to say a few more things. But look, when it's all said and done, I think Aaron Judge will fall into that conversation of the most feared right-handed hitters this game has ever seen. I wish he was a high school pick and got more time, got to the big league sooner, so those stats were padded even more. But now with Ohtani in the National League, Judge is going to fill up his mantle with a ton more MVPs and Silver Sluggers. And look, I understand Judge loves playing the outfield. There's some guys who like being in the mix on defense. It keeps them locked into the game. And he's more than capable of doing it. But if I'm the Yankees sometime in the near future, regardless of the money you're paying him, you got to start considering DHing this guy more, because you need him in the lineup more than 150 games a year, because we've seen what happens to the Yankees when he's not on the field and they don't play well.
Yeah, it's funny where we've gone with Judge this year. In the spring, he talked about how his big toe was going to require constant maintenance for the rest of his career. And then he was bad for the first 3 weeks. It was like, oh, man, this is kind of worrisome. But he's been ridiculous since then. He leads in on base percentage, slugging, obviously OPS and OPS plus, home runs, RBIs, total bases, WAR. His lead in OPS is 127 points. That's how big the gap is there. Second is Gunnar Henderson, who would be second in AL MVP voting right now. Bobby Witt Jr. is probably still in the mix a little bit, but as things stand right now, this is Judge's awards to lose.
6-time All-Star, AL MVP in 2022. Just add into those accolades, it seems like. All right, Matt, we're going to start with you now. National League Cy Young conversation. Who do you like?
It's really, really close. Zach Wheeler of the Phillies is up there, but I ended up going with Chris Sale. I actually changed my mind from when I started to fill this out during the All-Star game. I had Wheeler. Reynaldo Lopez is also in there. Ranger Suarez. Skeens is probably working his way in there, even though it's only 11 starts. Hunter Green actually leads in WAR, but Chris Sale right now, 13-3 with a 2.70 ERA, 0.96 WHIP, 140 strikeouts against only 24 walks and 110 innings, and that's for a Braves team that lost Spencer Strider, their ace, very early in the season. Sale has resurrected his career in Atlanta. And remember, this is a guy who got Cy Young votes 7 times, but has never won a Cy Young. He's one of the best pitchers ever to never win a Cy Young. It'd be a really cool story if he did it at age 35.
Yeah, I got to go with Sale as well. And I mean, to your point, Matt, it's time for him to win one. He's been a great pitcher throughout his career. He dealt with a lot in Boston. It was tough for Boston to get rid of him, but at the same time, they kind of had to, because he couldn't stay healthy. And you also said, you made a good point, he stepped in and filled that ace role in Atlanta when they lost Spencer Strider for the season. So Chris Sale's healthy. This is exactly what Boston was scared of when they traded him. He's already thrown more innings in Atlanta this season since he did in 2019 in Boston, because just freak injuries, right? Well, Tommy John happens. That happens all the time. Comes back, couple starts in, line drive off the finger, broken finger, IL. When he's rehabbing, he crashes his bike and breaks his right arm, costs him the rest of the season. So just a lot of freak things to happen. But look, it's good to see him finding health and success again at this level, because as we see right now, there's still plenty in the tank for Chris Sale.
Well, we got to point something out. Looking at the American League, so far you've picked all Yankees up into this point. So Cy Young in the AL, you're going to switch things up a little bit?
You know, I tried different ways to justify actually taking an Oriole here, Corbin Burns, but I can't. I got to go with Tarek Skubal. He's just having an unbelievable year, and Detroit has one of the easiest remaining schedules in baseball, which is going to help him pad those stats even more. He's a strike-throwing machine. He finds a way to miss bats in the zone. He has a fastball that gets up to 101. He's going to average around 97, 98, and 3 really solid off-speed pitches. Hitters have a really hard time squaring this guy up. Like I said, you got to gear up for the fastball, and then he breaks off a nasty slider at your back foot. And he's got a really good changeup. He can work arm side as well. Left-handed hitters are batting just 181 against Skubal. So you think, hey, righties are maybe having a little more success? Not much. They're hitting just 192 against him. He's one of the filthiest arms in the game right now.
Matt, what do you got?
Yeah, I've got Skubal as well. He leads the ERA, he leads in ERA and WAR. He's second WHIP. He's 10-3 and he's on a bad team. That's always a good sign that a dude is doing everything he can to win games for his team. If we were saying who is going to win this award once it's all said and done, I probably would lean more toward Corbin Burns because of his history with his workload. And Skubal, remember, came back for just 12 starts last year. Toward the end of the year, he might run into a wall. They might shut him down. He might get traded to a National League team if the Tigers are big time sellers and they get a package back that they can't refuse. So the smarter money would be on betting Burns right now if you were going to gamble on that. But my midseason pick is Skubal would win it right now.
Matt Snyder, Will Middlebrooks with their mid-season awards. Fellas, we appreciate you here on HQ as we take a look at the odds to win the World Series. Currently, right now, the Dodgers favored at +320, followed by the Phillies. And then we got a little AL East action there at the Yankees and the Orioles. It's going to be a fun second half of the season.
Jenny gets the fun stuff. I get the...
Womp, womp, womp.
I was going to say important stuff. That doesn't really fit either.
It is important.
Managers on the hot seat, according to our colleague Dane Perry. Ollie Marmol, Bud Black. Couple of surprises, in my opinion, here. And I'm going to get thoughts from our analysts of that they think a name or two might be a surprise here. All right, we're bringing back Will Middlebrooks and Matt Snyder into the conversation. Well, I'm going to start with you. Ollie Marmol, give me your thoughts on... He's on the list from Dane Perry on the hot seat.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by this. I thought, if you look at last year, Marmol led his team to a first losing season since 2007, first 90-loss season since 1990, and that was with 2 MVP candidates in their lineup. So I'm surprised he didn't get canned after that. Instead, St. Louis gave him a 2-year extension through 2026. So clearly the front office there sees something we don't, and there's a belief in him. And this season, they're playing better baseball. I mean, they're 4.5 out of the NL Central lead behind Milwaukee. They hold the second wild card spot. If that holds and they get into the postseason, he'll be totally fine. But if they collapse, you got to think the Cardinals make a change after last year's awful season. And then if they somehow crumble over these last couple months and lose a playoff spot.
So that for some guys may be a surprising name. Matt, if I gave you Scott Service, AL West leading Mariners, now I know they have lineup issues and they can't hit at the moment, but what do you make of Service?
Well, they've had a 10-game lead whittled down to 2, and it looks like it's inevitable that the Astros are going to slingshot past the Mariners in the West, and the Rangers might even catch them as well. Let's just say the Mariners fall down to 3rd place and miss the playoffs again. It was 2 years ago. They had a lot of momentum. They made the playoffs. They broke the playoff drought. They advanced around, but then they got swept by the Astros, and they missed the playoffs last year by a slim margin. To grow to a 10-game lead this year and then fall and miss the playoffs, keep in mind, Jerry Dipoto has been the general manager there since 2015. And if they haven't made a deep playoff run by now, especially then when they've gotten this close, something's got to give. So I do think if the Mariners miss the playoffs, and there's a distinct possibility that Service would be gone. So yeah, I think that he should be on this list, especially like I said, when it was only a few weeks ago they had a 10-game lead. Now it seems like a foregone conclusion that the Astros are going to blow by them.
So those are 2 names. Let me throw out a couple more your guys' way. Alex Cora, Aaron Boone, without contracts going into next season. But if the season did end today, Will, they would be in the playoffs. You were obviously tuned in to that rivalry, those 2 teams in the division. What do you think?
Well, I wouldn't put anything that's happening in New York on Aaron Boone, unfortunately, for anybody listening who wants him to be out of there. But you look at the last couple years, it's Brian Cashman continuing to build a dysfunctional lineup that lived and died by the home run and could only score runs when Aaron Judge was healthy. This past offseason, obviously they went out and made some moves. They get Juan Soto, who is one of the top handful of best players in the game, obviously a big help. And then Alex Verdugo, which on paper made a lot of sense. He has not played well at all this year. They just have too many players underperforming. And at some point in a market like New York, regardless if you're winning 90+ games every year, someone's head needs to roll because of it. The players love Aaron Boone. Look, this guy has the players' backs more than any manager in baseball, almost to a fault. We saw that with the Grisham play in center where he booted the ball and gave a runner on second base. But with that payroll and not having a World Series ring since 2009, if they don't win this year, you got to think maybe they move on.
Yeah, let's just say if they somehow stayed in a wild card spot and lost in the wild card round, I got to think the pressure would be really, really high, especially with how good they started this year. And going back to 2022, they were on a historic pace, one of the best teams of all time through the first half. And then they ended up getting swept by the Astros in embarrassing fashion in the ALCS. And this is the Yankees we're talking about. And I always say when I talk about the Yankees and their drought since 2009 winning the World Series, it doesn't sound like much of a drought to any other team. But if after the 2009 parade, if you would have told Yankees fans, hey, before the next time you guys win the World Series, the Nationals are going to win one, the Cubs are going to win one, the Royals are going to win one, or the Astros are going to win twice, or Giants are going to win 3. They hadn't even won in San Francisco at the time. Are you kidding me? Oh, and by the way, the Red Sox are going to get a couple too. They'd be going crazy. This just isn't acceptable anymore in New York. So at some point, like Will said, heads are going to have to roll.
It's so weird. Will is so New York-centric today. But what about Cora in Boston, Will?
Look, I don't think Alex Cora's in the hot seat at all, actually. I think the front office understands his value that he brings to the team. I also don't think the front office can be naive enough to believe that they've given him enough to win. You look at what they did this offseason, a lot of fans turning in those season tickets and not coming to games early in the season until this team started to play well over the last month and a half or so. But look, this is the AL East. You have to have stars to compete normally. But what Alex Cora has done so far of finding this old school, gritty way of baseball and finding the best form of a style of play for this personnel group that he has, full of rookies. He does have some veteran guys. He does have Rafi Devers. He's got Kenley Jansen. He's got some guys mixed in. But they also went out and got Luis Giolito in the offseason, who was supposed to be their ace. He hasn't thrown a pitch since a week into spring training because he blew out his elbow. So you're having to have guys step up. They're going to have to go make moves. I think this team has forced the hand of the front office to be buyers and go help that rotation as these guys are running out of gas because the offense can play. But don't you be surprised when Alex Cora gets that Craig Counsell type payday after this season.
Yeah, I interviewed Liam Hendriks in spring training, and he said one of the reasons that he wanted to sign with the Red Sox was because they always tend to punch above their weight. And what's the common denominator through all these years of them seeming to overachieve almost every year under Alex Cora? It's Alex Cora. And you look at this roster, and it seemed like mostly it was designed to kind of reload, not necessarily a radical rebuild, because otherwise you'd trade Devers, for example. Devers could stick around to be the centerpiece, but it looked like they had pieces they could sell off and then pieces that they could keep to build for next year or 2 years down the road. And instead, here they are in a wild card spot. They could buy if they wanted to, and I'm sure that they will. And you just have to give so much credit to Alex Cora. Like I said, with people like Liam Hendriks from around the league before he signed with the Red Sox, thinking, man, they always punch above their weight. You got to give credit to Cora.
Less than 2 minutes left to go, so about 45 seconds from each of you. Will, you get the AL. Matt, you get the NL Manager of the Year as of today. WMB, you go first.
Well, right now I got to go with Stephen Vogt. First-year manager, he's got the best winning percentage in the AL, and that's with a roster that doesn't have any superstars outside of Jose Ramirez, and we'll throw Emmanuel Clase, the closer, in there. And he lost his ace, Shane Bieber, to Tommy John in April. But Vogt, he was a leader when he played. He's a leader as a coach. And I just have to mix in. We just got done talking about Alex Cora. If he gets that Boston Red Sox team into the postseason, he's going to get votes as well.
So I think on the National League side, Pat Murphy of the Brewers would probably win because people love the small market, the unexpected, and all that. But I've got to go with Rob Thompson, man. I mean, the Phillies have an 8.5-game lead over the Braves. The Braves were overwhelming favorites coming into the season. And it's not like the Phillies haven't faced adversity. They've had injuries to Bryce Harper, Kyle Schwarber, JT Realmuto is still hurt. Trey Turner was out for a while. And they've done nothing but hum along as one of the best teams in baseball, basically from the start of the year, starting in the third series, I believe. So I like the teams that just crush people and win throughout, and the manager has to deal with that kind of success, and he does a good job with his bullpen. They're not good. They're not bad at anything. Like, they're good at stealing bases. They're good at defense. He pulls all the right strings. I've got to go with the Phillies and Rob Thompson.
Matt, Will, thanks for playing too on HQ today. Certainly appreciate it. Yeah, you like that?
I like that.
Dark days until Friday. Take a look at the notables. I just love that Stephen Vogt has his own soccer chant. I believe in Stephen Vogt. I believe in Stephen Vogt.